Adrian Blackwell lived in a world of absolute perfection. Every detail of his life was meticulously planned. His days ran on strict, unyielding routines. His mansion was a monument to gleaming luxury, a testament to his immense wealth and power. Yet, despite it all, a deep, hollow emptiness echoed through the halls of his life. One rainy evening, with the wind howling outside and city lights shimmering on the wet streets, Adrian sat in his grand study. He was buried in financial reports and contracts, lost in his world of numbers and deals. Suddenly, a soft knock echoed from the massive front door. He frowned. Visitors were a rarity, especially uninvited ones. In his experience, unexpected guests usually meant unexpected trouble. A mix of curiosity and caution pulled Adrian from his chair. As he walked toward the door, he expected to find a lost delivery driver or a confused messenger. But what he saw stopped him dead in his tracks. A young girl, no older than 12, stood shivering in the relentless rain. Her clothes were soaked through and dirty. Her small body curled protectively around a bundle she clutched to her chest. Inside that bundle, two tiny heads peeked out, their large, innocent eyes blinking against the storm. The girl's expression was a heart-wrenching mix of fear, hope, and raw determination. She looked up at the towering billionaire and whispered, her voice trembling, "These twins stay with me." In that simple, declarative sentence, something stirred deep inside Adrian. First confusion, then disbelief, then a strange, undeniable curiosity. He could unfathom a single scenario where a homeless child and two infants could possibly intersect with his meticulously controlled life. And yet, here they were, standing on his doorstep, shattering the pristine silence of his perfect home with their unpredictable presence. Adrian's first instinct was to dismiss them, to close the door, lock it, and return to the comfortable certainty of his work. But something in the girl's eyes held him captive. She wasn't begging for a handout or pleading for pity. She was demanding a chance, a safe haven for the twins. And even though he had zero experience with children, and even less desire for the chaos they bring, he found himself listening. Truly listening. Mia, as she finally introduced herself, spoke quietly, but with a strength that was astonishing. She told him how she had lost her home, her parents, and how the twins were now her sole responsibility. She wouldn't leave them alone on the cold, unforgiving streets. Adrian watched how carefully she held them, how her entire being was a shield against the world. He realized her courage was nothing short of remarkable for someone so young. There was no drama in her words, no manipulation, just pure, desperate honesty. He glanced down at the twins, two tiny babies who seemed so fragile yet so full of life. Their small hands reached out, as if they could already sense his hesitation. The air in the grand foyer felt heavy, thick with a quiet tension. For the first time in years, Adrian felt unsure, a sensation he despised. His life was built on certainty, control, and predictability. These three strangers had just created a moment he could not control. After a long, charged pause, Adrian let out a deep sigh and opened the door wider. "You can stay for tonight," he said, his voice firm, but not unkind. Nothing more. He watched as Mia carefully placed the twins on a soft blanket in the sitting room, her hands moving with a gentle, practiced precision. She possessed an instinctive knowledge of how to care for infants that fascinated him. That night, Adrian found himself pacing the halls, walking past the sitting room more times than he'd cared to admit. He'd peek in at the twins sleeping peacefully, their quiet, rhythmic breathing, a new sound in his silent mansion. A feeling he had long forgotten began to surface, a sense of connection, of a responsibility that went far beyond his business empire. The house, usually filled only with the cold echo of luxury, now felt alive. The presence of the girl and the twins had fundamentally shifted its energy. And though he would never admit it, he felt a strange warmth he couldn't explain. Mia remained calm and composed, though he could see the deep exhaustion etched in her eyes. She managed the twins with endless patience and care, never complaining, always moving with a quiet grace. She was showing Adrian a world he had long ignored. A world where love and compassion were more valuable than contracts and deadlines. He tried to resist it, but a profound respect for her courage and determination began to grow within him. As the night deepened, Adrian realized something profound. These small, fragile lives had crashed into his world, and in their own quiet way, they had already begun to change him. He couldn't imagine what the future held, or how this single encounter might turn his life completely upside down. But he knew one thing for certain: the unexpected had arrived at his doorstep. And for the first time in a very long time, Adrian felt the stirrings of a life he could uncontrol, a life that might just be richer in ways money could never, ever buy. The rain continued to fall, a steady rhythm against the glass, as the girl and her twins settled into the billionaire's mansion, unaware that their arrival was the beginning of a journey that would challenge, inspire, and ultimately transform his life forever. Life in Adrian Blackwell's mansion had always been quiet, controlled, and predictable. But the arrival of Mia and her twins had turned everything upside down. The once silent halls were now filled with small footsteps, giggles, and the occasional cries. Adrian, who had never dealt with children before, found himself confronting chaos he had never imagined. At first, he tried to maintain his usual strict routine, waking early, checking emails, attending meetings. But every plan seemed to crumble the moment the twins were awake, demanding attention, needing to be fed, or simply seeking comfort. Mia moved through the mansion with a calm efficiency that Adrian could not ignore. She soothed the twins with gentle songs, changed them with patience, and even managed to prepare simple meals with what little resources they had, all while keeping a sense of order amid the mess. Adrian observed her quietly, realizing that her bravery and resilience were remarkable for someone so young. He began to understand that her strength was not loud or flashy, but quiet, steady, and deeply rooted in love. The twins, whom Adrian now knew as Leo and Lily, quickly grew comfortable in their new environment. They explored the mansion with curiosity, touching everything within reach, their laughter echoing through the halls. At first, Adrian found the noise irritating. The spilling of juice, the scattered toys, and the endless questions tested his patience. But slowly, he began to notice something else: a warmth spreading in his chest. A feeling he had long forgotten, a connection that couldn't be measured in contracts or wealth. Even the smallest moments began to change him. Adrian found himself reading stories to them in the evenings, narrating tales he had only read as a child. He watched with fascination as the twins' eyes lit up with every word, Mia sitting nearby with a quiet smile. He realized that for the first time in decades, he was not alone. He was part of something real, something living, something that mattered beyond numbers and profits. Mia noticed his hesitance at first, the way he tried to distance himself from the mess, from the responsibility, but she never judged. She simply guided him gently, showing him that caring for others didn't make him weak. That love and responsibility could coexist with his business and his world. Over time, Adrian began to take small steps, feeding the twins, holding them when they cried, and even joining in their play, each action chipping away at the walls he had built around his heart. Outside the mansion, life carried on as usual, but inside, Adrian began to see the world differently. He noticed the small joys, the way a smile could light up a room, the way laughter could heal invisible wounds. Even the challenges he faced with the twins became opportunities to grow, to learn patience, empathy, and understanding. He realized that wealth had always been about control. But now he was learning that life's true richness came from connection and love. At night, after the twins finally fell asleep, Adrian often sat alone in the study, reflecting on the day. He remembered how he had once believed that solitude was freedom. But now he understood that solitude had been loneliness in disguise. The presence of Mia and the twins, with all their imperfections and unpredictability, had brought a new kind of freedom, one filled with joy, laughter, and purpose. Mia, noticing his thoughtful expressions, never said much, but her presence spoke volumes. She had shown him that family was not always about blood, that love could come in unexpected forms, and that sometimes opening one's heart to others was the greatest adventure one could undertake. The twins, with their endless curiosity and innocence, reminded him daily that life was not about perfection, but about presence, care, and the courage to embrace the unexpected. By the end of the week, Adrian realized that his mansion had transformed. Not in design or luxury, but in spirit. The halls were alive with laughter, the air filled with warmth, and for the first time in his life, he felt a sense of belonging, a connection that no wealth or power could provide. He had learned that life was unpredictable, messy, and chaotic, but it was also beautiful, and that the unexpected presence of a homeless girl and her twins had turned his carefully controlled world into a place of love and meaning. And so Adrian Blackwell's life began to change, not because he had chosen it, but because he had opened his heart to the lives of 3 strangers who had entered his world, teaching him lessons no book or business deal ever could. As he watched Leo and Lily play in the sunlit hallways, he knew that this was only the beginning of a journey that would continue to transform him forever. Days turned into weeks, and Adrian Blackwell started to notice changes in himself he never saw coming. The mansion, once silent and orderly, now echoed with laughter, giggles, and playful chatter. Slowly, he realized that the presence of Mia and the twins was doing more than just filling the empty rooms. It was filling the emptiness inside him. He found himself waking up before dawn, not to check stock prices or emails, but to see if Leo and Lily were awake, to hear their laughter as they tumbled out of bed, their tiny hands reaching for him. A warmth he had never allowed himself to feel before began to spread through him. Adrian's transformation was gradual, almost imperceptible at first. He began to engage with the twins in ways he never imagined. He'd read them stories with exaggerated voices, make silly faces that sent them into fits of uncontrollable laughter, and even join in on their playful games, the kind of games he once considered trivial. But now they filled him with a pure, simple joy. The mansion, which had always been a place of luxury and precision, was now a playground of love and connection. He found himself embracing the mess, the noise, and the chaos with a patience he didn't know he possessed. Mia watched quietly, noticing the subtle shifts in Adrian. The way he smiled more easily, the way his eyes softened when he looked at the twins. She realized he was opening his heart in ways she had only hoped for. She never forced him, she simply allowed him to experience the beauty of family, the strength of love, and the meaning of responsibility. With every passing day, Adrian learned that caring for others wasn't a weakness, but a gift, a chance to grow, and a way to heal parts of himself he had long ignored. One evening, as the twins slept peacefully after a long day of play, Adrian found himself sitting on the balcony, staring at the city lights. He reflected on the profound changes in his life. He remembered how he once thought wealth and control could bring happiness, but now he understood. True happiness came from connection, from being needed, from loving and being loved in return. Mia approached him quietly and said, "You've changed, sir." He smiled, knowing she was right. He had become softer, more patient, more compassionate, because 3 small lives had entered his world. The twins, Leo and Lily, were the catalysts for his emotional growth. Their innocence reminded him of the simple joys he had forgotten. Their laughter was a melody that broke through the walls he had built around his heart. Their unwavering trust in him forged a bond that was unbreakable. Even Adrian couldn't deny the overwhelming joy of seeing them run toward him with tiny arms outstretched. The first time he had held them close, he felt an immense sense of responsibility, but also an unparalleled love that made every challenge worthwhile. Adrian's daily routines were completely overhauled. He began prioritizing moments with the twins over board meetings, finding creative ways to balance his business empire with family time. He discovered the joy of spontaneous outings, visits to the park, and bedtime stories. Each small moment brought him closer to understanding the true meaning of love and connection. Mia, always observing, quietly encouraged his involvement, gently reminding him that family wasn't just about living under the same roof, but about sharing life and emotions openly. Even his business associates noticed the change. Adrian's demeanor became warmer, his decisions more thoughtful. Though some mocked his newfound priorities, he no longer cared about external opinions. The emotional richness he had discovered was far more valuable than any financial gain. He had learned that life wasn't about perfection or control, but about embracing the unpredictable, messy, and beautiful reality of human relationships. By the end of the month, Adrian could no longer imagine his life without Mia, Leo, and Lily. The mansion had transformed from a symbol of isolation into a home filled with warmth and laughter. And he had transformed from a distant, detached billionaire into a loving, caring guardian who understood the true meaning of wealth. Not in terms of money, but in terms of love, compassion, and family. The emotional transformation was complete, and for the first time in years, Adrian felt truly alive in a way no luxury or business success could ever provide. As he watched the twins play under Mia's watchful eye, he realized that life's greatest treasures are often unexpected, arriving in the form of small hands, trusting eyes, and brave hearts. And he silently promised himself to protect, nurture, and cherish this newfound family forever. For they had turned his life upside down in the most beautiful way possible. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that like button and subscribe for more. We'll see you in the next one. Life inside Adrian Blackwell's mansion had changed completely, but outside, the world remained as unpredictable as ever. The arrival of Mia and the twins hadn't gone unnoticed. Neighbors whispered about the homeless girl and her children staying in the billionaire's sprawling home. Some were curious, others were deeply skeptical. Soon, the media caught wind of the story. Journalists started asking questions, and social media buzzed with wild speculation. Adrian, a man who had always fiercely guarded his privacy, suddenly found himself at the center of intense public scrutiny. At first, he tried to ignore it all, believing that what happened within his own walls was his business and his alone. But the comments and rumors grew louder, more insistent. Some questioned his judgment, calling him reckless for allowing strangers, especially a homeless young woman, to live with him. Others mocked him for being sentimental, sneering that wealth and emotions were a volatile mix. Adrian felt a strange combination of irritation and deep concern. But he also realized his priority was no longer public opinion. It was the safety and well-being of Mia and the twins. Even his business associates began to challenge him. They noticed his newfound focus on family and wondered if he could remain as sharp and effective in the boardroom. Some even tried to manipulate him, hoping to take advantage of any perceived weakness. For the first time, Adrian faced a situation where his personal life and professional responsibilities collided head-on. He understood that protecting this fragile new family would require courage and unwavering decisiveness. Mia, ever calm and composed, noticed the stress etched in Adrian's eyes. She reassured him with simple, powerful words. "They are safe, sir. And that's what matters." Her quiet wisdom reminded him that the judgment of others was insignificant compared to the lives of the twins. Her support helped Adrian remain steady, and slowly, he learned to navigate the immense pressures from society and business without losing focus on what truly mattered. The twins, Leo and Lily, remained oblivious to the gossip and attention. They continued to bring joy and chaos in equal measure. Their laughter and boundless curiosity were a constant reminder of why Adrian had opened his heart to them in the first place. Even in the most challenging moments, he couldn't imagine returning to his old life of solitude. Their presence had given him a strength, a motivation, and a sense of purpose that no criticism could ever diminish. One day, a particularly aggressive journalist showed up at the mansion, journalists demanding an interview with Mia and the twins, hoping to sensationalize their story. Adrian stood firm and refused entry, explaining that his family's privacy was far more important than any publicity. Mia watched him, silently admiring his resolve. She realized that the man who had once feared unpredictability was now willing to protect the vulnerable at all costs. Despite the pressure, Adrian and Mia found small ways to strengthen their bond and maintain a sense of normalcy. Their daily routines with the twins became sacred. Breakfast in the sunlit kitchen, long walks in the garden. Playful afternoons in the hallways, these simple moments became a shield against the chaos of the outside world. And in those moments, Adrian discovered that love could provide a protection stronger than any walls. Through these challenges, Adrian began to see a deeper truth about life. He realized that wealth and status couldn't shield him from emotion, nor could they dictate what mattered most. The approval of others was fleeting, but the trust and love of those who depended on him were eternal. He learned to balance his responsibilities, prioritize his heart, and confront obstacles with courage. He saw that these challenges weren't threats, but opportunities to grow and strengthen the bonds he now cherished. By the end of this turbulent period, Adrian's life had transformed once again. Outside forces could no longer shake him. He had learned to stand firm in his choices, to protect those he loved, and to embrace the beautiful unpredictability that life had brought him. Mia's presence, her wisdom, and patience, along with the innocent joy of Leo and Lily, had given him a new sense of purpose that extended far beyond the confines of business and wealth. As Adrian watched the twins play in the garden while Mia laughed beside them, he understood something profound. True strength wasn't measured by power or money, but by courage, love, and the willingness to face life's challenges to protect those who matter most. The mansion was no longer just a home. It was a sanctuary, a place of growth, love, and resilience. And Adrian knew that no outside pressure could ever undo the incredible transformation that Mia and the twins had brought into his life. Adrian Blackwell's life had changed in ways he could never have imagined. The mansion, once a place of silence, order, and perfection, was now alive with the sound of laughter, chatter, and tiny footsteps. The presence of Mia and the twins had transformed not just the house, but Adrian himself. He had gone from a man of routine and control to someone who understood the unpredictable beauty of love, responsibility, and human connection. Leo and Lily, full of curiosity and energy, ran through the hallways, their laughter echoing against the walls. Adrian watched them with a smile he hadn't felt in years. Their innocent joy was contagious, and he found himself joining their games, telling stories with exaggerated voices and even dancing around the living room just to make them laugh. Mia observed quietly, her eyes filled with warmth, knowing that the man who had once feared chaos had now embraced it fully. The twins' presence had taught Adrian lessons that money could never buy. He learned patience in ways he had never known, compassion beyond business strategy, and the true meaning of selflessness. Each small act feeding them, comforting them when they cried, or simply holding their tiny hands was a lesson in love. Slowly, the walls around his heart began to crumble, revealing emotions he had long buried under ambition and control. Mia, who had arrived at his doorstep as a homeless girl, became more than just a caretaker. She became a partner in this journey of change. Her courage, wisdom, and quiet strength guided Adrian, teaching him that family was not always about blood, but about connection, trust, and loyalty. She had entered his life seeking help, but in truth, she had given him the greatest gift, love, and a chance to live fully again. Outside pressures, the gossip, the critics, and even business associates no longer held power over him. Adrian had learned to prioritize what truly mattered. The twins and Mia were now his world, and protecting them became his highest priority. The mansion had become a sanctuary, not just a home, and Adrian found joy in the simple, messy, and unpredictable moments of family life. One quiet evening, as the sun set and the golden light filled the mansion, Adrian sat on the balcony with Mia beside him and the twins playing at their feet. He reflected on how drastically his life had changed. A few words from a brave, homeless girl, "These twins stay with me," had completely turned his world upside down. He realized that the greatest fortunes in life were not measured in wealth, status, or power, but in love, trust, and the bonds we form with others. Adrian smiled as he watched Leo and Lily chase each other around the garden, their laughter a melody he would never tire of. He reached out to Mia, taking her hand gently, and whispered, "Thank you." "For everything?" She returned his smile, shaking her head softly. "No, sir. Thank you for letting us stay." And in that simple exchange, both their lives were sealed together forever. The billionaire who had once feared unpredictability now welcomed it wholeheartedly. He learned that life's most profound moments often came from unexpected sources, that love and family could heal wounds that money never could, and that true happiness came not from control, but from embracing life in all its messy, joyful, and sometimes chaotic beauty. Adrian's heart was no longer confined by walls of routine. The mansion was no longer silent, and his life was no longer lonely. He had discovered the power of human connection, the courage to embrace responsibility, and the joy of unconditional love. Mia and the twins had turned his carefully controlled world into something far richer and more meaningful. Something that would forever change how he viewed life. And as night fell and the twins drifted to sleep, Adrian watched over them with a sense of peace he had never known. He understood that this journey was not about wealth, luxury, or perfection, but about the simple, profound act of loving and being loved in return. The homeless girl and her twins had entered his life unexpectedly, but they had left an indelible mark on his heart, turning his life upside down in the most beautiful and life-changing way possible. From that moment onward, Adrian Blackwell was no longer just a billionaire. He was a guardian, a father figure, and a man who had learned that the greatest fortune of all was the love of family. A family that had come into his life when he least expected it, but at exactly the right time.